The Tibetans in diaspora began electing their representatives since their early years in exile. In the year 2011, the complete devolution of political authority by His Holiness the Dalai Lama to the elected political leader turned the Tibetan administration in exile into a fully functional democratic polity as envisioned by His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. Since the year 2011, the Tibetans in diaspora have exercised their right to vote after every 5 years. This time, the Tibetans will vote for Sikyong, or the political leader, and the 18th Tibetan Parliament-in-Exile. We will find out about the preparatory work for the upcoming Tibetan General Election and the voter turnout expectations from the Election Commissioner, Lobsang Yeshi. The program, Kungo.
Thank you so much.
Kungo, how is the preparation for the Tibetan General Election 2026 going on so far? How much of the groundwork is complete so far, and what's left?
Actually, the preparation for the 2025-26 Sikyong and Parliament elections began last year, actually. We have elected the members of the Regional Election Commission, and then in October 1st, the Parliament has elected the additional election commissioners. So then began the electoral process. And then we had a huge discussion regarding the electoral process, decisions about dates, schedules, and other preparations. And then on 7th of October this year, we had the first press conference, and during that time we have announced the entire schedules for the electoral process. And then we first began the mandatory kind of election registration process, and that was scheduled from 8th of October till 30th of November. It was completed, and we have already received the total number of voters registration so far. And then in between we had trainings for the election commissioners, regional election commissioners, especially based in India, Bhutan and Nepal. And then we began a tour of awareness for the public, which began October 14th. It went for almost 2 months. I visited almost 56 areas, places, India, mostly India, and then foreign countries, Australia, America, Canada, and Europe, which consists of France, Belgium, and Swiss. And in these 56 areas, we have conducted almost 100 public talks, meetings, discussions, semi kind of trainings for the regional election members. And then we are also in the process of publishing ballot papers, which we have recently completed, and we are supposed to be in the process of sending them, dispatching them all over the world. We have already completed. And then we are still in discussion about how to allocate the polling booths. Last time it was almost 300 polling booths that were set up. And almost 2,000 people have participated as regional members, volunteers, observers in this election. So right now we have not completely decided about how much to allocate. We are receiving petitions, suggestions and requests from many places to set up polling booths, and will do as much as possible to provide the voting rights to any Tibetans who could organize themselves and conduct through the instructions and guidance from the central as well as the regional election commissions. So till now we are in that process.
Right, Kungo. So as you said last time, the last election, we saw almost
correct, it's just 300 something, 200 plus volunteers 200. Have participated as a staff.
Right. So what measures are being taken to ensure that Tibetans living in the far off or the remote areas are also able to exercise their voting rights?
Initially, we had discussions with additional commissioners as well as staffs. And then we also had kind of discussions and guidance from the previous staffs and commissioners. And we thought that now that the situation is so much that Tibetans have been spread to so many countries, and we could almost count it to 40 countries all over the world. And last time we could only conduct elections in 26 countries. And we thought that if we could, facilitate more, polling facilities to the voters around the world, and we thought of introducing, internet voting, postal voting sort of things. And then when we did the drafting of the amendments for the election rules and regulation, as well as relating with the charter, and we found that most of these rules are connected with the charter, and which we cannot, we don't have the mandate or the legitimacy to introduce any amendment in the charter, except in the election rules and regulations. So then we have to withdraw this. So right now, we could only provide facilities as mentioned in the election rules, as we have received directives from the Parliament according to the Charter. So in that cases, if voters could organize themselves in any places, individual voters who can't reach on the election dates to the polling booth, those are the problems for us. We really think that we cannot do anything about it. But people who are in groups and who can, organize themselves, provided they have already, registered, and provided they have already completed the collections and, submissions of the taxes according to the Green Book, we will try our best to, set up polling booths wherever possible, and we are going to really, send ballot papers. Yeah, sure.
Right. So, Gungo, you also spoke about your travels. Your office has traveled extensively within India and then also abroad for this election, and then to engage with the Tibetan General Masters overseas, and also with the regional election officers or commissioners. What were their major concerns, Gungo, and what were also their feedbacks that you heard from the communities abroad?
It was intensive. It was mostly concerned with the previous experiences. Some of the regional members, they express doubts about how to conduct in such situations which is not very clear with the election rules and regulation, not clear with the charter, how to define that thing and how to really implement those rules on ground. Because there are conditions and situations which is very dubious, which is not very clear whether something is in violation of the rules or not. And in the process of trying to provide as much voting rights to the public. So in that sense, there are a lot of clarifications to be done on rules and regulation. Especially they were asking about assistance to So in that cases, some of the confusions were that they felt that they have the right to provide assistance. And sometimes there are violations according to the election rules and regulation. Election rules and regulation stated that you can assist them provided they ask for it, provided they have a trust on the person who is assisting, provided they are family members in certain cases. So those definitions sometimes they get confused, and in the process, people who have read properly the rules and regulation, they complain about the violation even by the officers in certain regions. And then there are cases where people can't, on the date, they can't attend in person because of, frailty, because of sickness, because of the bedridden conditions. So some people in certain places have, in view of good intention, the staffs went there to pick up their, let them cast the votes, trying to facilitate their voting rights. But then, according to the rules and regulation, this is not allowed. So people who have good intentions to maximize the participation of the voters, they can provide convenience, provide buses and cars for the people who can't reach properly, who are far away from the polling booths. So those facilities could be done. So those were some of the things. And sometimes regional election commissioners as well as the members, they do not feel empowered to decide certain issues which happens in their own locality. So according to the charter as well as the election rules and regulation, they have been empowered to decide any issues relating with the electoral process as well as election in the regional itself. And then those decisions, if they could take up. Right now the problem is that most of those cases are directly forwarded to the Central Election Commission without making any decisions. So that is not very proper. They are supposed to take responsibility, take decisions, do the investigation, entire thing, and then if the person concerned is not satisfied with the result, they can petition to the Central Election Commission. And our decisions, if they were not satisfied, they can forward it to the Supreme Justice Commission. Certain budgets are allowed or not, because last time we have certain fundings. So in that cases, they were provided everything that they have demanded. But right now we are in the front crunches and our budget allocation is limited. So in that cases, the local election commissioners have to manage with whatever previous budget allocations are being allotted. So those are some of the issues.
Right. So, Kongo, from your interactions with the Tibetan communities, how politically informed and interested are they? And also, what are your expectations regarding the voters' turnout this time?
I'm surprised with the fact that we thought people are not very interested, especially given the fact that we have announced the electoral process since first week of October, and it's almost 2 months. And then we find that not a lot of candidates are coming out openly as we used to have. You'll remember by this time we'll have lots and lots of posters around Maklodiganj and Dharamsala, so which is not the case this time.
Right.
So, but when we went there and interacted with the public, we thought, especially in India, where people are on winter sort businesses, and we expected that the local people residing in settlements would be very less. But to our surprise, when we went there, we found the halls were full of people attending. Everywhere there are public discussions. So those, through those interactions, we have realized that comparison to almost 5-10 years back, public are very interested. They know a lot of stuff. And then the only problem is that the decision making, we are expecting that the decision making should be, totally guided by the charter, election rules and the intentions, good intentions for the community and the cause.
Right. So, coming to rules and regulations, Kongo, how is the election office, commission office, ensuring that the transparency and the electoral integrity is maintained throughout the electoral process?
Yeah, in our workshop provided to the regional election commissioners on 16th of November, we had a whole day workshops, mostly questionnaires, interacted, and we discussed a lot of on-ground processes and on-ground ways of doing things during the election. So during those times, we have already told them, we have narrated a lot of charters, election rules, whereby it was told that these charters and the rules not just refer to the voters and the candidates, but it also has a lot of stuffs related with us. Most of these articles, we even have articles whereby even the Central Election Commission's members as well as the Regional Election Commission members has to bind by the oath that they have taken to be fair and to be just.
Right.
So in that case, if certain things happen and it was vindicated and proven, then you are supposed to leave the post. In certain cases, the staff has to will be suspended for 3 months. So in especially in Article 24 and 25, it's already mentioned that there will be punishment and penalties even for the officials. So that I've been reminding, and in public talks and with interaction with the Regional Election Commission members, I've also told them to be fair, because they are the main people who are actually conducting the elections on ground with public. So they have to be fair. If they are not fair, then all the results will not be will not have the credibility, will not have the acceptance from the public. And then even if the results were announced, the people will not have the satisfaction. So we have to be fair on ground level as well as from the central officials. So those are some of the articles in the charters, which really binds us within this framework, whereby we have to be just and true to our commitment. So definitely people have the right, if something, if the election commissioners are on fault, they have avenues to approach the Supreme Justice Commission, to put forward the case and vindicate whatever the misdemeanor or misconducts is proven. Yeah, definitely.
Right, Kumar. So, coming to voters' participation registered, we see a noticeable number of increase this time. It is over 91,000, Kumar. So, are there any innovations or reforms introduced to enhance the voting participation?
Actually, registration is pivotal in the sense that if you are not registered, you tend to, miss the opportunity to vote to right. So in that process, in other countries, the voting registration is almost throughout the year. And then we have a lot of local elections within which more importance are given regarding the voting registration. So in our charter, it's also clearly mentioned that if the voting election is not happening, even during the non-election phases, you can register if you have reached 18 years of age. So that facility is already there, but people tend to forget about it. And then we also have registrations during the elections of the local assembly, elections of the Tibetan Freedom Movement, regional Tibetan Freedom Movement, elections of regional election commissioners. So those are the phases when you can also, register as a voter. So this time, as you mentioned, the total number of voters registration is largest so far.
Right.
Previous largest was in 2015-16 when it almost crossed 90,000. But the sad part is that the actual voting rate, for example, last time there were 83,000 registration, and then only 64,000 people have voted. 20,000 has almost missed. We are not very sure whether it's a duplication or it's a double entry, or people have missed it actually. So this time we have tried our best to extend the date of registration, which is almost the most number of days so far. So that could have contributed. And then we have actively involved the registration officers as well as the regional election commissioners regarding the importance. And then one good thing is that we have also clarified to the concerned officials that if somebody has registered already, maybe 10 years back, 20 years back, and they have conducted election, participated in election, the charter as well as the election rules states that you don't have to register again. So some people might have not registered this time, feeling that they are all registered. So that way, actually voting could increase. We are not very sure. And we are hoping that as much as we have registered as a voter, that much could have participated. So we're looking forward for good, turnout.
Right. So, what do you see as the biggest challenge for this election, and what would be your message to the Tibetans worldwide?
The greatest challenge, when I was elected as a chief election commissioner, people, call me with a concern that it's a difficult job. It's a difficult job. It's something very troubling. And most of those concerns could be based on because of the social conditions. How Tibetan society has become very active, especially online, and how they have, in the name of democracy, trying to assert their choices very vibrantly, very openly, which sometimes seems to be creating a lot of divisions, disturbances, doubts. So because of those things, people might have, raised concerns about how difficult, how challenging the election process will be. Definitely. Because ours is the only election which is conducted in 26 plus countries.
Right.
Ours is election which is not conducted through any internet or postal votings. So it's all manual kind of thing. You need the presence, doing the voting. So in that cases, and most of the time, being in exile in any host nations, without having any kind of policing facilities, where you don't have the right and the facility to impose certain rules and regulation, mostly based on voluntary from the Tibetan public. So in that cases, in the name of democracy, people tend to raise a lot of concerns, lot of views, suggestions, which creates a lot of confusions and misconceptions. So in that process, it's really difficult to, calm down the kind of a chaos that people are trying, some section of people are trying to create. So, and then we already have, certain forces, external forces, which has ulterior motive to really destroy this process. So this process is important in the sense that it's about re-election of representatives of two pillars of CTA. So the survival of CTA, the continuity of CTA is very, very important for the Tibetan struggle to continue. So in that process, people have to raise above their differences, raise above their democratic choices, and think that the first and the pivotal duty of a Tibetan person is to, to promote the Tibetan struggle, promote the Tibetan unity, and to promote the efficiency of CTA. In that process, if your intentions are correct, if your choices are correct, I think the challenges will be less. And luckily and fortunately, we have so many people who are in the right track and who are in support of the system. So who are, when the system is almost being disturbed and, being maligned, they stand up and try to protect it. So in that cases, I'm confident that this election, as well as the last several elections, will go smoothly and effectively, and people will rise above all these difficulties. And we are hopeful and positive about, after 6 months, we'll have a new, coming, the Sikyong coming up in his office, the parliament members, and people are relaxed and calm, and your raises in the sense that you are exercising your democratic rights, you need to have a full-fledged informed decision, informed views. Sometimes people tend to make decisions, half-baked decisions, half-baked informations, and without doing any research, without doing any background check. So that is kind of a real challenge, because election commission cannot go and respond to every complaints, every suggestions, every views, So that way we are trying to sometimes restrain ourselves. We are trying to sometimes be more strict so that the things could go smoothly. So those are some of the challenges that we are facing right now.
Right. So thank you so much, Kumo, for speaking to Tibet TV today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here. Thank you.
Thank you. That is all for this episode of In Conversation with Tibet TV. I will see you next time.